perfectly timed growl there, kiddo. Hello. I've returned, and so has the gremlin. And we're going to do some show and tell, starting with Sprocket. Just because I think probably GHPC is a little too much for me to handle, while also juggling this creature and juggling trying to get the stream up and running for the first time in like, what, 6-7 months? So yeah, we're going to do some more chill stuff. Probably go through Sprocket, not actively really building on stream. I'm way too slow and prone to undoing and redoing things for that. I'm just showing what I've been up to in it. And then maybe we'll do some Flyout. Hey, Full Metal Potato, good to see you. Cheers for the sub. Appreciate it. I know it's been a very long time, but I am still alive, sort of. But yeah, we'll do this. We'll do some Flyout, and then we might hop in Nuclear Option or something else. Just something relatively like chill. I would do the Reforger campaign on stream, but I literally just finished the Reforger campaign yesterday. And the other issue is I have that fun issue in Reforger that no one knows what causes it or how to fix it, where opening your map, or especially your inventory, for like 0.2 of a second too long causes the game to tank to 3 frames per second, and it needs a restart fix. And the campaign doesn't save progress, or at least not on the settings that I've got. So, yeah. Refrogger might be a bit painful, at least until they figure out what causes that issue. But this is where we're at. We're going to do some Sprocket to start with. Yeah, all's pretty good. I mean, I'll always find things to complain about, but no, it's generally been pretty alright. I've got my little monster now to keep me in check a bit. Hey? Just before I started the stream up, she was throwing a tantrum, demanding that I play with her. But it looks like she's a little settled now, since we just went out for a nice walk. And convinced 2 more people that they want a Pomeranian. She's good at doing that, because she's always very friendly and rolls over on her back and wants cuddles. They don't get to see the amount of bullshit I put up with. Gonna do some DCS today. I might maybe do some like single player stuff, like just learning the MiG-29 or messing around, if I can remember how to speak, in the Phantom. My internet has been dropping non-stop. For those who were here for the first part of the stream, you would have seen it go like 5 times in about as many minutes. So multiplayer is out of the question pretty much until I can figure out what's causing that, unfortunately. I have a deep-seated suspicion it's just that the internet in my suburbs sucks, because I had a similar issue when I lived just down the street. But we'll see what we can do. I'm going to try replacing my router later with one that's not old enough to vote. And maybe that'll help, if not fix it. So anyway, Sprocket, fun game. I've been playing it on and off for a while. This is my magnum opus. It's the one actual functional design I have. I had a couple more, but when the internals update came out, it kind of broke most of them. It would have required as much work to rebuild them as to just build a new tank. So I focused on my most sort of mature design, I guess you could call it, and focused on getting that one working instead. And this is it. This is the T65, totally not because, you know, I'm a T64 fanatic or anything. It's meant to be sort of like a very late 50s, early to mid 60s, early MBT. It's got a bit of heavy tank DNA and a bit of medium tank DNA in it. So it's quite similar to a lot of the things that the Soviets were actually producing around that period. We'll do a quick sort of showroom pan around, and then we'll have a look at what's actually going on with this thing. And jump on my PC and watch a stream. I will see you there then. damn, this thing's a good looking tank. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but I'm just gonna go ahead and that's a good angle. But yeah, so it's about 38 tons, so it's very similar in weight to an actual T-64. It's got quite decent armor protection. Sprocket doesn't do composite armor. In theory, you probably could do like non-explosive reactive armor, so things like spaced plates, that sort of thing you could probably do in Sprocket without any mods. But I haven't bothered with that. This thing's just homogeneous welded and cast steel, but quite a chunky bit of it. You can see from the shape of the hull, it's got the pike nose on the front because I just like the shape of that. But it's very much sort of a Soviet heavy tank hull with a Soviet medium tank turret. It's kind of like a baby T-10 almost. It's probably the best way to describe it as a baby T-10. So if we drop out of photo mode, and I've got the turret locked at that angle with a cheeky little exploit I figured out, so it's not going to be swinging around as we pan around the tank. We'll go back to the builder mode and I'll show you what's in it. You can't really do wet racks in Sprocket yet, but I've done the next closest thing I could, which was surrounding the rear ammo rack on at least, you know, the rear and one side with fuel tanks. I could probably actually fit another fuel tank in there. I might do that so it's surrounded on both sides. The whole rack, one of my friends did actually make like a sort of wet rack by just boxing the rounds with fuel tanks. The rounds for this gun are too big to do that in too small of a package. If it was a larger tank, I could fit them in, but it's very squat, low to the ground. It's designed like a Soviet tank. So I'm waiting for a wet rack part to make these work as they should. In the meantime, though, you can see it's got a fair amount of fuel up front, which acts to absorb incoming rounds. You know, you'd rather have fuel there to soak up some of the energy than empty space or a crew member's face. It's a 122mm gun. Actually get the gun stats up. So because like I went through and enabled the Cold War preset for Sprocket, there's a couple of presets in the game's files which aren't enabled by default, but you can go in and twiddle the config files around to get them. So we've got the Cold War stat bonuses, and I also did some tweaking specifically on this tank for the traverse and the elevation drives, just to kind of mimic the more powerful versions you would see on a Cold War tank from the era this is meant to be. Otherwise, like, because this thing's got a relatively big gun and a big turret, it would take forever to get it traversed and elevated. So we did a little bit of save editing, I guess you would call it, but nothing too cheaty. So yeah, 122mm gun. It's just firing regular, like, I guess the default ammo is like APCBC or something like that, or APHE. Might be APHE. But even with that, 270 mils of penetration against rolled homogeneous steel, that's not bad. You know, that's pretty up there with, like, immediate post-war 122mm guns with decent ammo. It's got about 1,200, 1,300 litres of fuel in it, so it's got a decent amount of range. The engine, mounted in a transverse fashion, of course, because, you know, post-war Soviet design philosophy, is a 16-cylinder. It started out as a V10, because that was about all I could cram into there. Then it turned into a I think I skipped V12, we went to V14. I was like, you know, fuck it, we'll just go to 16. Because it's a relatively cramped space, it doesn't have massive displacement per cylinder. So I figured we'll just go with more cylinders, and that will magically make up for it. So it's kind of a fairly compact, but pretty reasonably powerful engine. Transmission's mounted behind it. I just went with clutch and brake steering on this, because I was like, the dual gearboxes, first of all, are a pain to fit. If I really tried, I could probably fit 2 gearboxes into this and have, you know, actual twin transmission steering. But this thing is not meant to be ripping around the place like a fucking Mario Kart. It's a tank, right? Clutch and brake will do for what we need. So we just got the one transmission there. Maybe like a modernized version, I'll slap twin transmissions in. I have got a coax in here. So Sprocket doesn't support coaxial guns, machine gun. Well, it does support coaxial, sorry. Let me correct myself. We have a coaxial, what should be a machine gun in here. Sprocket doesn't support machine guns, autocannons, autoloaders yet. They're on the roadmap, but they're not in the game. So what I did was I just took a conventional cannon, semi-automatic breech-loading cannon, and just made it really small. Like, made it into machine gun proportions. And then one of my mates, Nerdty, who I've known since like Face Punch days, he's really good with the in-game mesh editor. He does a lot of 3D work, so he figures this stuff out pretty quick, whereas like I struggle with the interface in this. So I took a machine gun mesh that he made. That is the shell for the machine gun, and then it's got a very small tank cannon inside of it, and then we just got these floating ammo, like floating magazines, as what would be our coaxial ammo boxes. So when they do, or when Hamish, and I think he's hiring a few extra people too, does finally get around to adding proper machine guns, we can just swap it out. All the rest is already there. As you can see, it's a 4-man crew. We don't have autoloaders yet. When we do have autoloaders, I'll probably make a version that has one, if not just make that the default for this tank, given the era it's supposed to represent. But we got, you know, driver, gunner, commander on the right-hand side. So this is a bit of a break from Soviet tradition. Usually Soviet tanks would have the gunner and commander on the left if they're a 4-man, and they'd have the loader on the right, so he'd be doing a left-hand load. I figured I'd just swap it around so the loader's doing a right-hand load, which is a little bit easier, a little bit more ergonomic. So then the TC and the gunner are on the right, like they would be in most Western tanks. We got an absolutely massive turret traverse drive, crammed in front of the loader, because that's the only place it would fit. Bearing in mind, this thing's got quite a big turret, right? The turret ring is moderately well-sized. The turret itself is quite spacious. I could probably add, like, double the armor to the front of the turret and still have room. The issue is then that the turret would be super unbalanced, weight-wise. It wouldn't want to traverse. And also, it'd just be kind of cheaty feeling. At some point, I'll probably just redo the turret from scratch, make it a little more... It's like a T-55 kind of shape at the moment. Like, it's got that kind of oblong lengthwise shape, whereas something like a T-64 was more of a coffin shape, like a rounded, or I guess you could call it like a heart shape or an acorn shape or something. So it's wider at the front than it is at the sides and back, whereas this is, you know, wider at the midpoint than it is at the front. But anyway, it's meant to be like a missing link between the Soviet post-war medium and heavy tanks and things like the T-64, right? So it kind of fits the vibe. But yeah, that is the T-65, my one functional tank in Sprocket currently, aside from the 2 designs I poached off someone else and started tweaking. This is all my work, except for, as mentioned, the coaxial gun, a couple of small things like the lifting hooks, and the snorkel kits on the back, stowage boxes. Like, the actual tank itself is mine. Just little detail bits that I yoinked off other people to add to the sort of flavor of it. And I think it's pretty good for what it is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bounce out of the showroom, and we'll actually chuck it into a custom battle. I was going to say we could do the missions, but that'll bump it back to like mid and late war era, so it'll take away some of its features. What I'm going to do, oh, that's not what I want to do. We'll just clear this out completely. We'll add some model of 1979. So you can also see it's got a few revisions. There's a model of 1977, model of 1973, and a model of 1979. The 1979 is obviously the one that I've been working on the most. The 73 and 77 have slightly different armor schemes and a few other bits and pieces missing. So let's take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Let's take a company of these. And these are all my friends' designs. Let's see what else we got here. Built in. I'm not sure which of these actually work because of the updates to the game. Defense heavy, I think, works, so we'll chuck a bunch of them in. We're just going to have a whole shitload of tanks to fight, but it should be fine. About double the tonnage on the defending team. Hello, Baba. Are you comfortable there? You're so cute, aren't you? Hey, you little kitty. Don't lick my glasses, I swear to God. I'm constantly getting tongue prints and footprints on my glasses now. It's such a pain in the ass. Cute one, though. Hey, Daffy Daff. Oh, we spawned in the air. Cool. Don't know why, but cool. Okay, let's get this gun ranged up. I'm hoping the AI know how to use the gun because it does have that coaxial gun. I've noticed they'll try and fire both of them, but we'll see how it goes. What Daffy Daff? As you can see, this thing is jam-packed inside. It's pretty hard to hit this thing and penetrate it without blowing up something important, so again, sticking to the Soviet design philosophy. That was over, I think. Those VK 3002D looking things that it's kind of like a cross between a Panther and a T-34. They're actually surprisingly tough. Like, their armor is quite difficult to crack, so this might not go over so easily. Whoop. Yep, sure enough. We've already lost a few tanks. Doesn't help that the AI are busy trying to reproduce and make baby tanks. So that was like one of the other things, is I didn't want to build something super overpowered. You know, it's easy to launch a game where it's freeform and you can build your own thing and make it just ridiculous. Plenty of people do that. I'm not about that. I just don't find it very interesting. I want to make something with realistic constraints. I might actually need to pull those because they're actually ridiculously hard to crack. I forgot how good their frontal armor was. It's kind of spoiling my little demonstration here. Do we have any functional tanks still? One of them's trying to drive off the map. You love to see it. Okay, let's go back and change the settings on this a little. Make it a bit more of a sensible force that we're fighting instead of an entire army. So the PSV-44 is very well armored. We'll get rid of those for now. And we'll head back in. They can be killed a bit easier from sort of closer to medium range, but at the range we were fighting out there, and with all the other tanks as well, kind of not doable. The game has a built-in IS4oid. No, you need to do the sicko mode. You need to make a object 416oid. Take the 416 to its logical conclusion and make an actual T64, but with the turret at the rear. I would actually not hate that. And here we see the armor thing of the terrain LODs being low enough that something looks like it's levitating. Thank you, I'm now fully wide awake. Hey, someone had to say it. Okay, someone had to. I think someone actually did build, like, they made kind of semi-replica T64s in this, and one of them, I think, was a rear turret. They had a bunch of weird variants of it. You missed the new title card, by the way, Cotty. I think you would like it. I'll have to use it when I inevitably get up to go get a drink, so everyone can see what they missed. Oh, I was gonna go for the other one. See, we're faring much better now that the PSV 44s aren't tearing us to pieces. Looks like we're being flanked over that way, which is not ideal. So those two things I just popped, that's one of Nebty's heavy tank designs. This thing will just punch straight through the turret, it doesn't care. It's like there's no armor there. So his medium tank is actually more resilient against this than his heavy tank, which is kind of funny. Oh. A replica what, Cotty? A replica what? Say the name of that thing again? Surely not all of them have been knocked out. The AI in this is obviously very, 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 very rudimentary at the moment. So your teammates tend to get themselves killed in silly ways. Yet another case of AI stealing good human jobs. Do we actually have any tanks left? I don't think we do. Oh no! Yeah, okay. We'll try again. We'll get there, okay? We'll get there. Look, it's a good tank, but like I said, I didn't build it to be overpowered. It has its flaws. Now I'll get it wrong on purpose. That's the spirit. Obviously, if stabilizers are ever actually officially added to Sprocket, this tank will get one, since this is meant to be a very much a post-war design. The original design I made in Sprocket, like the first thing I ever made in Sprocket, was kind of a T-43/T-44 hybrid. That wouldn't have had one, but this definitely would. This is 100% a post-war tank. It's a lot of incoming fire. We should probably not be parked in front of all those enemy tanks. Oh, Jesus. Okay, this guy is now a tank destroyer. That sure wouldn't be helping. It's actually one of the World of Tanks patterns. NOV recreated a bunch of them from scratch and also made a bunch of his own custom ones. Some historical, some fully his own design. He's put a lot of effort into this game. I think he's like a moderator on the official Discord or something at this point, but yeah. This was one of my favorite camo schemes in World of Tanks, so I figured it would be a natural here. As well as being a similar vibe to early war VVS bicolor camo, which I always had a soft spot for. Whoop! Fucking sent that one into orbit. We've lost this one through the lower plate. A Ghost Rider over there. Actually be interesting to look at where the knocked out tanks took their hits, because this thing's usually pretty impervious to hits to the hull front, like the upper hull upper plate, the glassy plate, and the turret. At least the turret front. He says, as he takes multiple hits through the hull from God knows what gun, but a very powerful one, obviously. Yeah, we don't have a functional gun on this anymore. Okay, let's go back again and make this a bit more of a sane battle. We've got 10 medium-ish tanks. Let's give the enemy PSV M1935 as a little baby tank. We'll give them a full platoon of these heavies. And we'll give them 2 of the big boys. That's a 120mm gun on that thing, the M63, so it's quite oof, ouch, owie. Time to make one of those rocket boosted MiG-19s. Yeah, I saw that Flyout development was back on the menu. That's really good news. And hey, I got into Flyout at almost exactly the right time. I only had to wait a couple months before we found out that Stone's actually alive and still interested in continuing the game. I missed like a year of Doom posting. It'd be so much easier if I could get these guys to actually stay with me. So we could just advance in line in a particular direction, rather than getting all strung out like this. But like I said, the AI in this is still very, very early. I've also got to fix the pivot point for the spotlight on this. It's pretty janky. Also, Kotti, I'm not sure if you caught it or if I said it before you got in, but after a bit of this, you know, showing off my singular functional tank in Sprocket, I'm going to fire up Flyout and show off my singular functional aircraft in that, which, to be fair, was not as scratch-built as this. I took somebody else's very cool plane and made some very heavy modifications to it to the point where it's almost unrecognizable now. Partly because I still haven't actually decided what I want to build for my first scratch build in Flyout. I was thinking a fighter bomber, like a supersonic low-altitude fighter bomber. Maybe variable geometry wings. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe half variable geometry, like a Su-17, but then it's got potted engines, like a Yak-20. Oh, yep, okay. I think I know what I'm doing in Flyout when I actually get around to building something from scratch. Yeah. Yeah. Great idea. Why not? No, Ross, yes. Ross, yes. The other option would be, well, obviously, someone, if not me, probably someone more talented, needs to build a Su-15TM in Flyout, and then take that, replace the wings, Su-19M. For those that haven't heard me rant about the Su-19M before, imagine a Su-15TM, but it's got the ogival wings of the original flanker prototype. It was a gorgeous aircraft. Never built in metal, but it was, they built a mock-up of it, I think. It wasn't cancelled because bad, it was cancelled because it became basically irrelevant. A whole bunch of politics and economic bullshit pretty much killed it. Those two would not be damaged if they hadn't driven... 3, it would be damaged if they hadn't driven at full speed into the edge of the map. See what I mean about the AI? Hey, Daffy Daff. I think, so one of the missions now in Sprocket is you've got to advance across a snowy field and there's anti-tank guns, like towed anti-tank guns. I think Nerty actually built those from memory. He's like really heavily involved with a lot of stuff with this game now, which is kind of cool. Because he's very good at building stuff in it. Whereas I'm mostly good at taking other stuff that people have built who are more competent than me and cludging it together into something that works. Yeah, this is annoying. So, these two are going to be already damaged when we get them into the fight because they've rammed into the edge of the map, but we'll have to just deal with it. Now, obviously, driving a smaller number of medium tanks into a large number of mixed medium and heavy tanks is not going to work well for me no matter what. But, I'm hoping that you guys are kind of getting the impression of what this tank is capable of. Like, it's punching through these things like butter from the front, except for that one medium tank. And it's taking a lot of hits before it goes down. It's pretty well built. I think we can go back into the editor after and check, but I think the upper front plates are like 130 mil or something. Like, they're quite thick. The lower plate's really thick. So the hull armor is very, very strong on this. The turret's pretty decent too, although I'd like it to be even thicker. Okay, we don't want to approach that close. That's danger range. We'll come in from the other flank. What you doing? What you doing, Daffy Daff? You're gonna sit on my desk? Oh, look at the belly. Look at the fuzzy belly. She's laying on top of my desk getting belly rubs. Spoiled. You're spoiled. Yeah, you are. This is my life now. I exist to give belly rubs to this creature. That's all I'm on this planet for. Hold on. Yeah, you can have belly rubs in a sec. Hold on. Hold on. Don't fall off. Oops. It's a little low. Papa, careful. Careful. Songs that weren't on the Epstein playlist, but probably should have been. What you doing? I think he's knocked out. The M63 can take a while to brew up for whatever reason. What are you doing, Fidget? Are you gonna hop down? No? You're not sure? You reckon you can make your mind up? I think most, if not all of these are knocked out. What? What is it? Are you barking because you want down, or are you barking at the door? I think we've bagged everything, but we'll just have a look. This is the part where I get shot in the back, probably. Settle, Daffy Daff. Settle, Daffy Daff. Yeah, they're all dead. Oh, you're fully up on my desk now. You like it up there, hey? You've invited yourself to my desk. Good job. I think there's a way to access the scoreboard, but I forget how to do it. So I'm curious to see how many of them are, if any of them are left, and how many I lost. Hello, beautiful. Really? Woof. What is it? What is it? What is it? I haven't played Sea Power for a while. I did play it when it first came out, but I haven't played it for a while. Hello, beautiful. Beautiful. Her way of waking me up in the morning or greeting me when I get home from somewhere is to jump on my face and stick her tongue as far up my nostrils as it will go. Why is she like this? Why are you like this? Hmm? Okay, up, down. Okay, I think we basically finished this mission, so I'm gonna skip us back to the sandbox for a minute, just so we can have a look at the armor scheme on this thing, then we'll bounce over to Flyout. We might pick up some DCS after that. This isn't my design, by the way. This is one I borrowed from someone else. It's an Object 430 or 435, one of the two. They're basically the same tank with a different gun. But I've been tweaking it to make it a little more functional. I think I replaced the gun as well. Same with the 433, that's not mine either. Yeah, 130 mil upper glassy plates. 120 mil lower glassy. The floor is obviously much thinner, but your odds of hitting that are extremely low. You can actually see as well, now that I've got the armor scheme turned on, the armor view, the hull is very strongly boat-hulled. It's pike-nosed, and then it's got this kind of tuck-in at the back. So when I originally laid down the hull design for this, I really wanted to make a T-22 medium. For those who've played World of Tanks, you'll probably remember that as being the Clan Wars drama tank that I'm forever pissed off my clan didn't get, because we should have. But I'm not quite skilled enough to make something as squat and as streamlined as a T-22. If you actually look at photos of the T-22's hull, when they scrapped the project and used it as a target range, like a target for the tank range, it's incredible. Like, it's got this shape at the front. It's pike-nosed, it's boat-hulled, like, to this degree, if not more. But then as you go backwards along the hull, the torsion bars are actually hanging beneath the hull of the tank. And then as you get along the sort of rear half of it, behind the turret, the floor of the hull actually lifts, flattens out under the engine compartment. So, like, the final drive is literally hanging off the back of the tank. It's not actually like it's part of the hull casting, but it's not fully enclosed by it. If that makes sense, it's a really weird design, but it's really cool. Anyway, I'm not good enough to do that, so I did as close as I could get. And then your T-55 turret. It's about 400-ish millimeters armor on the front, although it drops off quickly as it goes up or sideways. So it's pretty well armored. What? So as you can see, I think this is testing against 75mm gun with 100mm penetration. Let's fix this. Daphne, settle. Let's make it 105mm gun with, let's call it 250mm of pen. So that will go through the floor. She just had a walk. Didn't you? You just had one before the stream started. No, she's annoyed because she's up on the desk now, but she doesn't know how to get down. She put herself up there, and she doesn't know how to get down. Who did this, Daphne? Who did this? Whose fault is it that you're up there? Is it yours? Did you do this to yourself? Hmm? So, 105mm gun, 250mm pen. This thing is not quite frontally immune, but it's fucking close. As you can see, it's fucking close. You basically have to get it through the turret ring or just under the gun mantlet. And the sides, notice the sides are sloped as well. The IS-4roid, they're sloped in at the top and the bottom. You got to have a pretty good angle on the side to get around through. And then obviously the lower hull arm is quite thin, but it's very well sloped. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. That is the T65U, because it's the improved version. The original T65 it had a boxier turret, and it was a bit more basic. Model of 1979. But it's probably the last model. I don't think I'll do an even more modernized one. I'll just work on this version. Do you want down? Oh, thank you for the kiss. Thank you for the kiss, Bubba. Do you want down? You want to sit on my lap, or do you want to sit on my shoulder, or do you want on the floor? Which one? Come on, hop down. You want down? Yeah, I'll put you on the... or you can jump. She's got iffy knee joints. She shouldn't be jumping from heights, but she does it anyway. I've tried stopping her. It doesn't work. What do you do? What? Do you want back up now? You want to come up? You want me to play with you? Can you wait a little while? Can you wait a little while, please? Dad's busy. We'll play in a little bit, okay? On that note, though, I should get myself a drink. So I might take 10-ish minutes. We'll jump into Flyout when I get back. And you guys can check out my new title card, which I've made just special for today. she was probably grumping because she wanted dinner, so I've just given her food a bit early. Steve, I actually had to like psych myself up to do the backwards N. Like it was breaking my brain. Oh. Okay, so this I didn't build. This was a Turkish guy in the Flyout Discord whose name I cannot pronounce, but is very good at doing mashups. So one of them is an English Electric Lightning with just a single huge fucking massive afterburning engine, like Concorde kind of scale of engine. One of them is this, which, you know, you got like your Mirage 3-ish wings and your MiG-21 PF fuselage and tail, and then a solid nose and your kind of F-105-ish intakes. I saw this and I was like, I like this. I like this a lot. I have plans for this little guy. And a more recent one was a mix of a Hawker Hunter, a Super Rotunda, and something else mixed in. Like, it's unhinged. Oh, and also there's an F-101, like a F-101B, but it's got a MiG-21 intake. It's fantastic stuff, honestly. Fantastic stuff. Actually, I'll just show you his other designs. So this is the IAR 91. Then we've got the two-seater Macumba, which is the it's an F-101B, except it's not even a MiG-21 intake. It's a MiG-21 pitot boom with like a MiG-19 intake. It's unhinged. I love it. What's up, Bubba? You barking at the door? You woofing at the neighbors? Please don't harass the neighbors, Bubba. She doesn't listen to a thing I say, except to do the opposite. This is the, what if lightning, but big? With a ridiculous engine. Yeah, Uragan, actually, you're right. That's a Uragan intake, I think. I added the RAF markings, just because I was like, it needs RAF markings. And then, what did he call the other one? Hawker Ranger. This is, I like this. We got a Hawker Hunter, but it's got Super Rotunda wings, Mirage intakes, great big afterburning engine. It's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. But anyway, we'll go back to the IAR91 for a second so I can show you what I did with it. So this is what we started with. And the current working version is... I got about 3 versions on the go because I'm trying not to destroy the thing and not have a backup. I forget which is... I think this is the current one. Yeah, this is the current one. This is what I've done with it. So, obviously, I did some neurodivergent detail work. It now has working transducers on the pitot tube. It also has a pion antenna for the RSBN. And little intake scoops for the avionics bay cooling and stuff. The AOA vane works. It's got the typical IFF aerials. I ended up changing the intakes slightly. I like the intakes, but I was like, this thing's meant to be a Mark II jet. We need to get some geometry in here. So I swept them forwards a bit more. And I put splitter plates in. I'm probably going to redo the splitter plates. I'm not happy with them. But we do have them at least. And I'm going to have to do some sort of mechanized ramp setup in here. I know how it worked on the Thud, but actually reproducing it in Flyout's kind of difficult for me because 3D mesh editing in Flyout, much like Sprocket, is like 10 times more autistic than it needs to be. Because you're trying to build a game that's also like Blender, when it's way easier to do Blender stuff in actual Blender, if that makes sense. But we'll figure it out at some point. I put in the little folding landing lights under the intakes. Redid the gun gondola. It's only got the one Gesha 23L instead of a pair of them like the original had. We got the nice chunky landing gear for, you know, shitty airfields. Got the fuel tanks under the wings, and I reprofiled the wings slightly. So it's still a fairly basic delta shape, but it's got a bit more area to it. The control surfaces are tweaked to be more like you'd expect on a Soviet aircraft, where the inboard, the flaps are quite large and squarish, whereas the ailerons are, or, you know, the outboard elevons in this case are more whatever the fuck you'd call that shape. Trapezoidal. It does still have leading edge slats, but not full length. And then we've got a drag chute and a housing for it. I added the little SPO aerials. So yeah, did a fair bit of work on it. Pretty happy with it. There's a lot more to do. Air brakes are back here, by the way. They're F-16 style clamshells. That was taken from his original design. But yeah, there's still a fair bit to go, but we're getting there. I've also been borrowing parts from other people, so what did I borrow? Those humps on the wings. I could have done that myself, but it would have been a pain in the ass, so I just borrowed it. This thing on the tail, borrowed it. What else did I beg, borrow, steal? The ASO dispensers. I yoinked those. I yoinked the gun muzzle brakes are actually a part someone made, a custom part. It does have so the nose landing gear has a proper bay. It's not finished yet, but it does actually retract and the doors move. The main landing gear is going to be a pain in the ass. So Flyout has fuselage components and wing components. You can cut into fuselage components, you can shape them freeform. Wing components are very basic. The amount of editing you can do to wings is really, really basic. Like, you can't even change the aerodynamic profile of the wing, really. Like, they're all symmetrical airfoils. So what I'm going to have to do is build a new shell of a wing around the actual wing, make the actual wing invisible. The new shell of the wing will be fuselage parts with no with the aerodynamics turned off, so it doesn't interfere with the actual wing. Then I can cut into it to build bays for the main gear. The problem then becomes the main gear, you can rotate, like, it'll retract upwards, inwards, like it's supposed to, but you can't rotate the wheel independently. So I can't do the MiG-21 thing of, you know, it's like this is the wheel, this is the wheel, this is the leg. So it's meant to go up like this, and then the wheel sits almost perpendicular to the leg because it's nestled up against the engine, right? The actual engine casing is right there. That's why the MiG-21, if you look at it, it's got that bulge on the landing gear door, is because the wheel's sitting nearly vertical in that bay. There's not a lot of space in there. So there are ways to get around that. You can build custom landing gear, and then, but you need mods to do a lot of the more complex stuff. At least for now. That might change as Stone continues developing the game. For now, there's no mods here. This is all just stock stuff. I haven't got any mods installed for Flyout at the moment. We also... appropriate song for this. We also borrowed a periscope housing off someone else, although I'm probably going to redo it myself at some point because there's a few issues with this that I'm not overly pleased with. I borrowed someone else's MiG-21 cockpit. It's still heavily in progress. I've been cutting and changing things, so that's why there's bits that are see-through and bits that are missing. But I also borrowed the ASP site from somebody else. You can see I have taken the textures from my rework of the MiG-21 cockpit in DCS, and I have made good use of them. So we've got actual instruments. These are calibrated, by the way. These work. And the SUA lights, they aren't calibrated fully because I need mods to make them blink and change their frequency based on angle of attack, but they do turn on when you're about to stall. I'm going to have to replace the radar screen. I like the radar boot, but not the screen. The idea of this thing is it's kind of a mid-step between a MiG-21 and a MiG-23 in terms of avionics, so it should have like a very rudimentary look-down, shoot-down radar, but not quite as powerful as a Sufid 23. We've got our airspeed indicator. The problem is that in Flyout, it only indicates true airspeed. You can't do indicated on a gauge, at least not without mods that I'm aware of. There is a default part that shows indicated, I think, but you can't, like, the way this is set up is there's a rotor which feeds off of telemetry for the airspeed, and you can't tell it to feed from the indicated, it only feeds from true. But once that's dealt with, that will be your indicated airspeed. This is calibrated, the mark and true airspeed, that works as it should. This will be replaced, that's just a placeholder at the moment. This is placeholder. Working altimeter, properly calibrated. These are placeholders, so there will be a compass, but it'll obviously be a more Soviet-styled one. Clock will be replaced by an HAS1. I can use my one as a reference. I can literally just sit it on my desk as I make it. And then this will be a similar instrument, but Sovietified. I've also got to replace the landing gear indicators over here. So this is super rough, super work in progress, but you can kind of see where it's going. It's internally, it'll be kind of, I'll say it'll look more like a small MiG-25 cockpit, because, you know, the MiG-25 has, it's all steam gauges, but it also has the big radar scope. So it'll be kind of like that. It'll be kind of like MiG-21, MiG-25 vibes interior, but capability, it's more MiG-23-ish. Once we have the ability to add... Hey, Marduk, good to see you. Once we have the ability to build custom missiles in the game, rather than have to import models from Blender or, you know, kludge fuselage parts onto the existing ones, it will carry something, again, kind of between a R3R and a R23R. It'll be a midpoint sort of missile, medium range, but not quite to the same level as an R23. And then, you know, I'll have some other missiles for it too. Still more detailed than VAO Hawk. Oof. Anyway, I don't have my HOTAS set up properly to fly in this game because Flyout at the moment only registers, I think, 1 or 2 peripherals. So I can't fly this competently with stick and throttle, but we can at least fly it with keyboard and mouse. So let's do exactly that. Hey, John Doe, good to see you. Area ruling doesn't fully work in Flyout because you can't make one part influence another part. So, for example, on this thing, the fuselage is all one piece because then at least it's consistent. What am I looking at? You are looking at my little Flyout baby. What if the original MiG-27 concept... So what I forget what the actual index was for it, but what was originally going to be the MiG-27? It was based off the MiG-21I, the Delta Wing analog for the Tu-144. They took that and they're like, this is actually pretty good. I like how this handles and you can strap a load of shit under the wings. Let's build that into a ground attack aircraft. So it had the MiG-27 duck nose, but then it would have had a MiG-21 fuselage, essentially, with the ogival delta of the Tu-144, just, you know, small. I was like, let's build a fighter version of that with a midpoint of MiG-21 and MiG-23 avionics and weaponry. So that's what this is. Based on someone else's design, because I'm not quite competent enough at Flyout to build that fully myself. Oh, I have been cooking, yes. I need to... There we go. That's how we do it. Get the camera fixed up a bit. Wipe the controls, because Flyout will sometimes jam your controls hard over one way if you tab out of the game. We need about 20 units of takeoff trim to get this thing to lift itself off the ground smoothly at the moment. We'll call up our flight telemetry over here. Yeah. Yeah, well, I haven't had a lot of option in that. I've been very, very busy. Hey, Seraphim. It's going good, man. Good to see ya. And yeah, it's been a hot minute since I streamed. Okay, we got a fair bit of crosswind here. We're not going to fuss too much about keeping straight down the center line because this is hard to do with keyboard and mouse. Like I said, I've still got to fix up the main gear bays, but the nose gear is working. This thing's actually got pretty shit hot flight performance too. Get the landing lights retracted. But I liked the gun. I really liked the gun. It's got a decent rate of roll. It's not quite MiG-21 level, but it's not bad. It's a Delta, right? You got a lot more wing to move. Full Delta, not a tailless. Or tailed. I can't speak today, apparently. It is a tailless Delta. Just set it on autopilot to climb up to 11,000 meters. 0.92. This thing will just about super cruise when it's clean. I mean, it'll just about super cruise when it's got fucking weapons on board too. It's nimble. But I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Need this with Su-17 wings. Funny you mentioned that. I was just scheming earlier about... So this was based on somebody else's design. The MiG-21 fuselage and tail with Thunder Chief intakes and Mirage wings was someone else's doing, but I just changed it. I reprofiled the wings, reprofiled the intakes, did a lot of detailing work, changed the engine completely, changed a lot of the other stuff like the landing gear. So it's not 100% original design, but it's very, very heavily modified. But I was saying my first original design might be a... What if we took a Yak-28, but we put Su-17 wings on it? That's what I'm thinking. I quite like the silhouette though, like it's got a mean look to it. Also, Seraphim, since you just got here, I've got to point out my point of pride. So while I'm not quite competent enough with the Flyout freeform editor to build, you know, major aircraft components like a fuselage or intakes or wing, or you know, wing casings, I did build functional transducer vanes on the pitot boom, RSBN antennas for the nose and tail, functional AOA transducer on the side, which, like on the real, a real aircraft of this era, it's disturbed by the airflow coming over the nose, so it's always a couple degrees higher than it would be out on the pitot. Like a MiG-21, these would be for the weapon system because they can't have any interference on them. They need to be accurate. This is just feeding information to the pilot. You can build spacecraft in this too if you're insane enough. I've seen people put things in orbit in Flyout, but yeah, it's mostly focused on atmospheric stuff. I also built the IFF antennas, other little details like that. So yeah, we've got ourselves a lovely little what-if Soviet aircraft here. I'll switch to the cockpit view. Like I was saying before, the cockpit's heavily work in progress, which is why there's panels missing. But you can see we've got the beginnings of an RPM gauge. I just need to calibrate it. We've got our true airspeed and our Mach speed. That's calibrated, that works. Our indicated airspeed reads true airspeed at the moment because of the way Flyout works. I can't change that yet. Oopsie. Opened a half a dozen dialog boxes. And then we've got our altimeter. So, and of course we've got the two most important things. We've got our angle of attack, which, like on an actual MiG-21 or similar, reads higher than it actually would be over the wing. And we've got a working accelerometer, but it doesn't have the little maximum and minimum indicators. I've got to figure out a way to incorporate them. A couple of the annunciator lights work. Some of them are tied to... One of them's the afterburner, one of them's the control system. So, like, you know, in the MiG-21, the indicator light, and the 29 for that matter, an indicator light comes on when the ARU or ARZ in the 29 is in low speed mode. This does too. How'd you get the textures for the gauges? So you import them. The game has a decal system where you can import stuff into, like, you just save it into a folder, into the decals folder, and then it shows up in game. It's kind of finicky to place them because you're placing a decal rather than just, you know, a proper texture. But it does mean you can scale, rotate, do whatever with them as you're placing them. Which is handy if you want to, you know, skew a gauge slightly. Okay, we are now cruising at Mach 0.92 and 10,423 meters. Do you want to see how fast this goes? It won't actually get to Mach 4, that's just to get us up to speed. I've then got to remember which is outboard and inboard jettison. We'll do this just one at a time so I don't punch off the missiles by mistake. It is bound to a key, I just forget which it is. It's either delete or end. Watch the acceleration down. I don't know how well you can see it, but the acceleration down here. Maybe we'll go into the cockpit view and just... It is also trimmed a little nose high at the moment, so we're quite draggy. The autopilot doesn't seem to adjust the trim automatically. So I gotta do it myself. Now, bear in mind, this is level acceleration. We're not doing the S-bend thing. Doesn't accelerate blindingly fast, but it accelerates pretty well for what it's meant to be. Like, it's not meant to be as complex or expensive to build as a MiG-23. It's meant to be like late 60s, very early 70s, when the MiG-23 was still having issues. So... kinda. Now, there is a fair bit of crosswind, so that may fuck with us here. I've noticed with crosswinds, the flight control system tends to try and fight it, and that induces some pretty nasty searching of the nose and wing shaking. This would be a good plane as like a stopgap during the MiG-23's development, or as a an export aircraft to countries that couldn't really deal with the 23's requirements, but needed something, you know, more capable than a MiG-21 bis. Don't know exactly what happens at 1.27 that causes the acceleration to go up so drastically on 21. Yeah, I don't know. It might be... Well, I mean, like on the 29, for example, once it gets past a certain threshold, it just goes bananas as well. I guess once you've got that much air coming into the engine, it just kind of turns into a feedback loop or something. I don't know. I'm not an aeronautical engineer. There goes Mark II. Notice the split in the needles, by the way. Fat needle is the Mach speed, and the thin needle is the true airspeed in thousands of kilometers an hour. Just like on the MiG-21. I'm so proud of it. Like, this is the one thing I've done that I'm proud of in the last couple of months, is I made the gauges for this actually work. It took a lot of pain to get them calibrated, but we did it. We got there in the end. .15, still accelerating. You'll notice over here, drag 40. We just hit 50 kilonewtons of drag, thrust 60.7 kilonewtons of thrust. So we haven't run out of thrust yet, and we're passing 2.2 now. And our exhaust stream has turned into a fucking rocket trail, just about. You can also see, if you hit F3, you can see the aerodynamics overlay, so you can see the lift coming off the wing. I think this... I'm pretty sure Flyout does simulate lifting bodies to an extent. You can see there's some lift coming off my fuselage there. And lift coming off the engine intakes too, for that matter. So it's quite good. It's probably the best, you know... best aerodynamic simulation you're going to get for a build your own plane game. It's probably more advanced than KSP by a good measure, even with mods. But it's still not perfect. So things like area ruling not quite working properly, stuff like that. 2.30. We have not run out of thrust yet, although we're getting close. This is with 2 missiles on board, of course. Single belly mount for an R40. So, at the moment, since Flyout was on hold for a while development-wise because Stone kind of disappeared from the face of the Earth, but he's now back and he's hired some more people. One of the features that's in progress is a custom missile builder, so you can actually build your own missiles in the game without having to fuck around. So, I'm going to build... Imagine a halfway, sort of a half step between an R3R, God's missile, and an R23R. That's what this is going to carry. So it'll carry 2 of those, and then, you know, 2 or 4 R60s or 2 R13s or something similar. Yeah, Flyout doesn't care about intakes at the moment. So even if your jet engine's intake, or like your jet engine's compressor, sorry, is not... I could just block these intakes off and it wouldn't care. It just assumes that there's always optimal airflow to the engine. Maybe that'll change at some point. I kind of hope it does, because I'd like to have to design my intakes to work properly, but... yeah, at the moment it just assumes optimal intake. Mind you, notice... do you notice something, guys? Do you notice what is not visible from the front of this aircraft? The compressor face. This thing has a better radar signature than a MiG-21 by a decent amount too. This thing's actually kind of stealthy. This thing is stealth by 1960s standards. And we're just about to run out of thrust at Mach 2.35 we'll hit. We're 2.34 at the moment. This thing will hit 2.35 with 2 missiles. So it won't do the full fucking 2.6 send it and pray to God that the 23 will do in optimal conditions, but it's still pretty nippy. We're going to disengage the autopilot before I run out of fuel. Oops, shouldn't idle the engine at this speed or altitude. That's a bad plan. Now, I am flying this with keyboard and mouse at the moment because Flyout doesn't really play nice with multiple peripherals plugged in at once. I did have something similar to an ARU setup on this, so you couldn't really break the airframe unless you were just passing transonic and hauling back on the stick, but I appear to have broken it while tuning something else, so I've got to be careful, and I'm going to probably use the pitch trim to fly it. We'll just use the autopilot because I'm lazy. And also it's hard to do this with a keyboard. I'm probably going to break this thing on landing, by the way, because, again, it's really hard to fly with keyboard and mouse. There is a mouse flying mode, but that's not really much better, honestly. At least for me. And this thing has got a reasonably high landing speed, as you might imagine, what with the whole delta wing thing and the fact it looks like a fucking dart. Gamepad would probably be alright, yeah, I just don't have one hooked up. I'm gonna have to bend over and grab my... That's what she said. You have to bend over and grab the HOTAS for this. It's sitting on the floor at the moment just because I've got the trigger bound to that. I probably don't have the fuel to do this, to be honest, but we'll try it. Doesn't help that they're also flying away from me. It's just super scuffed. I think we'll just launch both missiles at one target. I don't want to be futzing around chasing both of them. We really don't have the fuel for it. Boom. Got it. It's quite a nippy little thing too. As you might imagine, because it's a, you know, big-ass Delta Wing, it doesn't have the greatest sustained turn performance, but it's not the worst either. It took a lot of tweaking. I'm kind of surprised, actually, how many people in Flyout don't seem to understand that center of mass really matters for how well something turns, relative to center of lift, right? So I've been shifting the weight around on this thing to get it so it's in just the right spot to get good turn performance without it being too unstable, or, you know, without losing the ability to mount stuff like the radar up front. But a lot of people, they'll build really good looking designs that should fly well, but because their weight distribution's fucked up, they handle like shit. Like, there's so much stuff in this game that people build that you just tweak, like, where the weight sits, and they fly like a dream. I think our nearest airfield is back the way we came. I'm not sure we're going to make it. It doesn't help that the autopilot's doing the most sedate turn ever. Oh yeah, watch this. Hang on. Watch the AOA vein. Oh shit, I can't get it to stick to the aircraft. Look at that, see? It works. It works. And if we go into the cockpit, it works. And the vein on the nose is easier to show you when we're parked on the ground because it reacts to wind. About half-half. So, the basic design, the idea of MiG-21 PFM fuselage and tail with Mirage wings and Thud intakes, that was someone else, but then a lot of the stuff since was done by me. So I reprofiled the wings, made them a bit bigger, changed the actual plan form of them. I gave it a whole new engine, so the power plant's completely different. Added the keel to it, the ventral fin. Reprofiled the intakes a bit, added all of the external details and a bunch of internal equipment. The cockpit at the moment is about half-half. I borrowed the basic shape of it from someone else, but like the instruments I've done. So I'm not quite at the point yet where I'm confident to build a completely scratch-build aircraft in Flyout, but I'm getting pretty good, I think, at taking what's already there and making it better. Or, you know, in this case, more, like, authentic for what you would expect from the Soviets in the late 60s, early 70s. Partly, again, because I looked at the existing design and was like, that's very close to the early concepts for the MiG-27, when it was still meant to be a Delta. I could just take that and turn it back into a fighter. I might actually... We want to head about that way, so that's probably 220-ish. Call it 225. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. It's a very nice looking aircraft. It's meant to be a half step between a MiG-21 and a MiG-23, and I think it does that very well. You know, you've got the solid nose to fit a better radar than the MiG-21, but it's not quite big enough to fit a Sapphire 23 in it. You've got a more powerful engine to keep it up, you know, up around more MiG-23 speeds. It turns a little better than a MiG-21, but not quite as well as the 23. Yeah, you can. You can make props. You can make rocket-powered aircraft. Like I said, people have built rockets and put stuff into space with this game. You can do a lot with it. People have built cars in this game. People have built trucks in this game. People have built boats in it. People build flying boats quite often. Someone built the Caperni design with like 15 fucking wings or whatever it was. If you guys haven't seen him already, go on YouTube and search for Messier82, MESSIER82. He's like the YouTube guy for Flyout. Can you make VTOL? Yep. Yep. It's not super well supported in the stock game, but with a couple of mods you can do it, or with some interesting engineering you can do it. It probably will be fully supported at some point in the future. Yeah, cockpit's still heavily in progress, that's why there's bits missing out of it. Gun sight's not mine, I borrowed that from someone else. It's just a MiG-21 gun sight with a widened glass. The instruments, the actual casings for the instruments I took from someone else, but the instruments themselves are mine. At least obviously the Soviet instruments, the other ones are just placeholders. There should be an airport somewhere around here. Fucking hope there is, because... Oh, right there. Looks like it's going to be a little bit of a sketchy approach, but... Now, this landing is probably going to end in disaster, because it is very hard to land this thing with keyboard and mouse, so you're forewarned, it's probably going to be in pieces on the runway. Also, if it does land a bit hard, bits will fall off. Because Flyout's a little... The way that structural strength works in Flyout's a little janky at the moment, so most people just don't turn it on. I turned it on because I didn't want to have a plane that could, you know, pull fucking 15G turns with no consequence, but at the same time, I think it's a little oversensitive. Especially to, you know, shocks. There's one airport where it spawns in, like, a foot off the ground, and when it hits the ground, the wings and tail fall off. Not ideal. Yeah, like War Thunder, exactly. Dude, Messier has made some insane shit. Unfortunately, he lost a lot of his existing designs to some malware, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. But he built some really amazing shit. Like, both practical and insane. We want to approach from the other end of that runway because of the wind. I've got to retune my ARU OID for this thing so that I don't break it as much. Like I said, it was pretty well tuned before, but something I've done to the flight control systems fucked it up. You can manually configure so many things in the flight controls for this, like dampers, response rates, the actual deflection angles of the control surfaces, so much. If I wanted to, this thing could probably roll about twice the speed it does now, but I deliberately toned the roll response down just to keep it controllable. Where's Daphne? Daffy Daff, where are you? She must be over by the door. Oh, yeah, she's sitting on top of my shoes. Skyhawk roll rate? Oh my god, yeah. Did try putting wing flex on a B-52, sadly the wings cannot support their own weight at that point. I think there's a trick to it. Someone found a trick to it because all the airliner guys were pissed off, they wanted wing flex. But I haven't got around to doing it for this, because I think you got to make, like, extra sections of the wing. Yeah, good to be online, Bart. Good to see you too. I've been pretty busy, like, the last 2-ish years, so not a lot of time for streaming, and my internet here is quite unreliable. I got to figure out why. So I haven't had much opportunity to do it, but I've got, well, a week and a half now off work. So yeah, week and a half off work, so figured I'd do some streaming. Still in Australia? Yeah. I'm seriously considering moving to Ireland, though. Like, really, genuinely seriously considering it. I don't know how practical of a plan that is, but I want to do it. Okay, let's get the paddles out. Yeah, I live across the road from a fucking data center, so you'd think I'd have decent internet, but apparently all the good fiber runs in there and we get the shitty copper. Because I'm just down the road from the flat I was in before I moved in with my now ex, and my internet there was a bit iffy as well, so I reckon it's just this neighborhood is kind of not the best infrastructure. Get the gear and the landing lights out. This is such a skewy approach, oh my god. We want a shitload of nose-up trim. And we're going to need some power on for the landing. This is going to be a fast landing. This thing has quite a high landing speed. Who would have thought? Delta Wing? High landing speed? Surely not. And it's probably going to want to bounce because of the sheer amount of back trim it needs. So we might have a bit of a yikes. This doesn't look like a very long runway either. Ooh. I got... Oh, shit, clicked outside the window. Ah! That's what happens when you click outside the window and fly out! It locks the controls over. I need to figure out if there's a way to lock the cursor to the screen. Okay, well, we'll restart the flight. And I'll show you guys what I mean about the nose vane anyway, while we're on the ground. So if you Alt-Tab and Flyout, it will lock the controls over in, like, the most bizarre way, and you have to fully wipe the controls on every axis to get them to unlock. And I apparently was not quick enough at doing that. Yeah, at least you got to see the radar antenna. Heavily work in progress, by the way. I borrowed that from someone else. I'm planning on making my own at some point. What I'd actually like is a radar part, and I suspect that will happen at some point. But not yet. Still early days. Okay. Notice the vanes on the nose are turned into the wind. Okay. We'll do another flight, and this one, I'll just do a short ferry flight. Actually, no, we'll do some low-altitude aerobatics or something, and then we'll do a landing at, if not this airbase, and one nearby. So, 20 units back trim to get it to lift itself off the runway. You can see it sits quite tail low on the ground. So we've got some nice angle of incidence to play with to get us off the ground quicker. it can actually stall. Initially, the flight controls were quite strict, so it wouldn't really get itself into a stall condition, but it does now. Because I don't want something that's too brainless to fly, right? It's meant to be 1960s, 70s era, so I don't want it to be too hand-holdy. Deletes the missiles, okay, and is the fuel tanks. We'll just fly it clean then. So it'll sustain about 10 to 12 degrees a second at low altitude in a turn, which is not great, not terrible. Kind of similar to a 21. Roll rate's okay, workable, and then its instantaneous turn rate, if I can do this without ripping something off of it, is pretty good. Pretty good. Though we did peak out at 12G at some point though, so like I said, I've got to adjust the ARU, or the thing that pretends it's an ARU. Got a reasonably good thrust to weight ratio, not 1-to-1, but still pretty decent. As it burns off fuel, it gets much better. You can see the leading edge droops there at work. About half the length of the wing. Well, 2/3, I guess. You could probably set it up to do that. I haven't. But what I have done is I've set it to drain the tanks in a specific sequence. Hello, Daphne. You want to play, do you? Can you give me a minute, Bubba? Why don't you come up and say hello to everyone again? Some of them haven't seen you yet. Hang on, I got a gremlin to fetch. Bubba, Daphne, come on. What if I get treats? Will bribery work? What if I get you treats? Hey? What have you got in your mouth? It's like having a toddler. Come here, Bubba. What have you got in your mouth? What have you eaten? I'll be back in a second. What have you been eating? Is it something you're supposed to be eating? How about, Daphne, what's this? Is this treats? Is this treats? Would you like treats, Bubba? Oh, yum, yum. Yum, yum. Okay, we've got the co-pilot back. Yeah, you can sequence them or you can physically move a fuel tank. I feel like with the mods that are out, you could probably sequence it based on CG. But yeah. Okay, you gonna sit here with me? Or are you gonna be a terrorist? Hey, what were you eating? What did you find? Were you eating fluff again? gonna sit on my shoulder? You gonna hop up? Yeah, hop up. That's a girl. That's a good girl. Okay, let's try and land it. Oh, by the way, speaking of fuel, you can see what your fuel system's doing as well. So, total fuel on this thing is a little more than a 21, well, reasonable amount more than a 21 would carry. I think without the drop tanks, it's about a couple hundred litres more than a 21, I want to say. I think the airfield I'm going to want to land at, because it has a cross strip, is a little further up the valley. Actually, it might be over this valley. Crosswinds are not fun in this thing, I'll say that much. I have. I really, really like it. It's going to take me a while to get my head around the sensors, though, mostly because trying to manipulate them all, you know, while under pressure is quite a challenge, which I expected. And I was saying on the earlier stream earlier in the day, it kind of shows you just how much the 29 was an advancement in aerodynamics, whereas in terms of systems, it was just a MiG-23 MLD in most cases. Like, obviously it's a little more capable than an MLD, but there's so much commonality there, it's not that much of a jump at all. So it's a very hands-on jet. But, you know, once you get competent with working those sensors, yeah, they do have their pitfalls, but it can be pretty nasty still. I've just got to train myself up to be one of the pretty nasty ones in it. You know, being able to fly it well, stick and rudder is one thing. I'm pretty happy already with how I can manage that. It's just that systems management I've got to work on. I am so happy with how this thing's turning out so far. The paint scheme's not final, so when I redid the wings, it wiped all the custom textures and stuff that were on there. So at the moment, it's pretty bare bones. It's indicative of what I want, so the overall sort of bare metal finish with the green dielectric housings and the obviously the Soviet markings on it, but I want to have a lot more surface detail, like panel lines and things like that. There's no point in me doing it until the aircraft's done, you know, because every time I change a part, it's going to wipe the textures or distort them or whatever. Not entirely sure where this airport is. It should be around here somewhere, but we'll have a look. Now, bearing in mind I am trying to fly this with keyboard and mouse, while also looking around with the mouse, I reckon once I get the, you know, either I change my controls so that I don't need to worry about the HOTAS not working, or I actually get the HOTAS working. Okay. What are you doing? It should be a dream to fly. It should be really nice. I don't know, Aftermath, you tell me. It's got some thud DNA as well. Designed to be a mid-step between a 21 and a 23 systems-wise, and flight performance-wise, really. With a half-finished cockpit. So, we're looking for a great big international airport. It should be somewhere around here, but I could also be in the wrong valley. One of the things with Flyout is there's not a really good in-game map at the moment. The map of the game world is an external web app, which is also, like, really janky because it's built on top of something you're supposed to, like, it's... I forget what the site is, but it's designed for mathematical formulas. I'm pretty sure it's not Wolfram, it's something else. And they've turned it into a map for Flyout, and you can use it to calculate, like, distance to different places and stuff, but yeah. Some slight Javelin genes? Cotty. Oh, Cotty. Speak dirty to me, my son. I would kill for a Javelin in DCS. I would kill for a Javelin in this. Someone built an almost Javelin in this, and I was... Ooh. I love the Javelin. That's one of my, like, sicko fantasy aircraft. Like, I would love to have any kind of Javelin in any kind of sim, just to fly that thing. A delta with a high, like, T-tail delta tail as well. It's just... I heard you like triangles, so I put some triangles on your triangles. Perfect. Forget interceptors, dude. We're going for all-weather fighters. Bring back the all-weather fighter. I think I may be barking up the wrong tree with this airfield. I'm pretty sure it's around here somewhere. Might be further north. I don't want to open up the map in the background because obviously alt-tabbing is bad no-no. We already saw why. And I've already got my browser open in the background, so adding another tab to that is likely to set my PC on fire. Let's just book it over there. It's not like we're that short on fuel. Pick up some altitude as well. Whoop, a little bit of overbank. Failing finding the airport I'm thinking of, there's an airfield out on the coast over that way that I think should have a runway angled into the wind. I think. We'll see how we go. Bring it back to mill power. Once we get this thing on the ground, I'll hop back to the editor and I'll show you guys where different things are in the aircraft. I'll show you its engine specs, things like that. I'm really happy with how it looks and how it flies, honestly. Especially considering I did commit to the tailless Delta, you're not going to get good sustained turn performance from that, really, no matter what you do. So, well, I mean, I guess unless you... Well, even with the best modern aerodynamics and technology, you're still not going to get really great sustained turn performance out of that. So, having it about on par with something like an actual 21... while having insane instantaneous and a decent roll rate, I'm happy with. And then, you know, okay acceleration, and it'll hit 2.35 with weapons. So, what more could you want? In a package about the size of a MiG-21 PFM, slightly larger, you've got what will be a look-down, shoot-down radar. Just a very janky early one. An internal gun. 4 to 6 missiles, including 2 medium-range air-to-air. And then you've got your, you know, all your navigation systems, your RSBN. I might do a PVO-ified version with, instead of the RSBN, it'll have the towel rail, like the Su-15 had under the nose. I'm quite happy with it. And again, because the compressor face cannot be seen from in front of the aircraft, it has a better radar signature than a MiG-21. This thing's frontal radar signature is like, its frontal area is like 2 meters squared or less, something like that. So by 1960 standards, this is stealth. At least when it's pointed at you. Obviously from this angle you'd see it coming a mile off. Is that one down there? I think there's a coastal airport around here somewhere. And then there's one that's actually, like, jettied off into the water over that way. We got enough fuel to play with that we can have a bit of a look around. Have a look-see. Because I really don't want to have to do a crosswind landing in this if I can help it. Not with the keyboard and mouse, anyway. Is that a river, or is that a... I think it's a river or something. Let's head back over this way. Good song for this, too. Speaking of DCS though, something else I need to bind up and fly is the Corsair. I'd like to see how that thing handles. We should see an airport soon. Because we're at the northern end of the valley that we started off in, or this valley in front of me, rather, is the one that we started off in. So there should be, that's where we were, there should be an airport about there, but it'll be a crosswind at the moment. And there should be another one over here-ish somewhere, or actually that's probably it there. So yeah, that looks like we might be able to go around the other side and land into the wind. So we'll kick on the burner to get over there a bit faster and burn off some fuel weight. And we'll land. Try to land, anyway. Just use this because I'm lazy. When this thing isn't carrying missiles, it accelerates like crazy. I didn't even realize we were doing Mach 1.53. Careful, you don't fall off, brother. It's funny, she probably blends in with my shirt and the chair. All you can see is the little tan shape marks on her face. You camouflage, Bubba. Careful. Bubba, up on my shoulder if you're going to sit there, please. I don't want you falling down. That's a girl. That's my girl. Yep. Okay, that's an airport there. That's going to be straight down the runway. Beautiful. Hey, Bubba. Hello. You're gonna watch, are you? You're gonna talk me down onto the ground? Oh, her breath could kill a horse. Maybe if someone stopped eating their own poop. Feral. I was tempted for Halloween to get, like, I've got a little mini trash can type thing. I was gonna wrap it in tinfoil so it looked like an actual trash can and then put her in it and she could be Oscar the Grouch for Halloween. Didn't get around to it though. Maybe next year. Not like she's gonna get any bigger, hey? This is as big as you get. All like 4 pounds, 5 pounds of you. Also, because this thing's so streamlined, it doesn't like losing speed once it has it. If I had a bit more real estate to work with on the belly, and or was more talented with the Flyout mesh editor, I'd be tempted to do more like MiG-21 style brakes, where it has the two that pop out here and then the one big one around the center pylon. I might still do that at some point and replace these. I was thinking of actually turning these, instead of air brakes, into trim tabs, like the Skyray had. So maybe I'll do that. Give it 21 style air brakes and then have trim tabs like a Skyray. That'd be quite neat. again, no guarantees this goes well. This thing is really hard to land with a keyboard. And even if I use the mouse flight mode, it's really hard to judge your descent rate. And this thing drops like a rock once it gets below a certain speed. Doesn't actually have any flaps, it just shows them, because Flyout has default bindings for flaps, but doesn't do anything. Just in case anyone was wondering why I pressed that, it was just because it was annoying me. It doesn't make any difference to the aircraft. If only there was a button that I could use to zero out trim as soon as it's pressed. Because that's the main issue. When this thing touches down, it bounces, and because it's trimmed to take off, it's actually beyond its takeoff trim at landing, it will try and take off again. Oh. Thank God those lights don't have collision geometry. Probably needs a slightly bigger chute. Or two of them, actually. Yeah, the Skyray. I know, right? You know me, I'm a big fan of the Skyray. Oh yeah, I did the clamshell on the, like I did the chute container and the clamshell on it too. That was something I added. So there are some things I built completely from scratch on this, but they're mostly little detail parts. The rest is modified. I have to turn it around on the runway because there's no taxiway from this end. You may also notice that the windscreen and the quarter lights are iridescent because they would have to be heat treated, right? They'd be made of some special kind of heat treated perspex, whereas the canopy itself is just transparent. The gun sight glass is also iridescent slightly. Little details. It's the little details. It's almost like I've got the tism. I just want to point out, this thing had working fucking angle of attack and yaw transducer probes and fucking RSBN antennas, like accurate RSBN antennas, before it had landing gear doors. And it still doesn't have landing gear doors for the main gear. So again, priorities of the diagnosable variety. Cute co-pilot, I know, she's adorable, isn't she? But her breath smells so bad. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Can you stop breathing in my face, please? You stink. You're cute, but you stink. Don't lick my glasses. No glasses licking. Nope, not allowed. See if we can park in one of these hangars. By the way, Cotty, I'm just saying, but this game badly needs some air bases with asparagus taxiways and hardened aircraft shelter. I'm just saying. And apparently it's pretty easy to import scenery into the game. Just saying. And maybe some cities with commie blocks. Again, just putting it out there. I mean, it has commie blocks already with Caucasus, but yeah, that's pretty exciting to see. Well, and actually it has them with Germany too, from the DDR side. Oop, we already did that. Hang on, I gotta remember which thing is which. Let's kill the engine. Let's kill our lights. The landing lights won't turn off without retracting at the same time, so we'll just leave them. Actually, no, let's retract them as well. And then, if I can remember what I bound it to. Okay, I didn't bind it to that. I didn't bind it to that. Didn't bind it to that. We'll get there. There we go. That's what I bound it to. There she is. So, let's... Oh, you may also notice the nose gear doors are sequenced so that the nose gear folds forwards, right? Like a 21. Notice that these ones close when the gear is down. So if I had it up on a test stand or in the air or something, I'd be able to show you, but the doors are actually sequenced to open and close in the correct order and the correct timings. I'll have to do that for the main gear as well once it's working. But I'm very, very happy with it so far, and it's obviously not done, but it's getting there. Slowly. Along with the million other projects I've taken on. Okay, so I'll show you some of the components and the engine specs. What I can do, I just need to remember not to save it in this state. Material 1. Glass. Sorry, it is a bit of a laborious process, but... those are solid, so there's nothing interesting to see in there. There's nothing really interesting to see in the tail either. It's solid at the moment, but I do intend to put some systems up there. In the MiG-21 and the 23 for that matter, your flight recorder would be in the tail fin. That's the part most likely to survive a crash. If you've ever seen photos of crashed or shot down fighters, the tail is usually in one piece. That's also usually where the ARU and stuff would be. So in the 21, you've got those bumps over the tail where the control rods from the ARU run down and around the engine, the afterburner. So we'll add more there. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of where different parts of the aircraft are internally. But I gotta just transparent that interior wing section. Okay, there we go. So, the lighting's not helping, but there's your drums for the gun ammo. They're up in the wings behind the intake, so the intake runs through there. I'm gonna have to smooth that curve out a little, it's a bit rough. But your ammo's up there. Your landing lights fold up behind the intake, which, as you can see, they converge there, and then you got your compressor face. All the details on the engine someone else did. I'm nowhere near skilled enough to make that. But the engine itself, like the actual engine performance and specifications, I did. But we'll transparent that as well so you can see the gun. So there's your Gashar 23 sitting in there. This is a fuel tank. This is, from memory, the reserve tank. Yep, so that's a reserve tank, which is pretty big. It's got these are all avionics boxes, so if we get functional avionics boxes, that's where they'll go. Plus the ones for the radar and the nose. You got your little radar dish. I'll probably replace that. I want it to be more of an obvious Soviet radar. I'm not 100% sure what this is based on. I think it might be based on a Phantom radar or something. But I'm going to make it slightly bigger, and it's going to be more like an RP-23. It'll be what's the RP-23? It's like a twisted Cassegrain or something like that. I don't remember. It's got the stripy lines on it. Got a radio aerial on the bottom for your data link. Got your RSBN antenna for navigation, like I said. This is the landing gear bay, the nose gear bay, which is not 100% finished, but it's getting there. You can see the forward, where the forward bulkhead will be for the cockpit. Inverse Cassegrain, that's the one. That's the back of the radar CRT. That big chungus thing there is the back of the radar display. It's got a dorsal tank. Because of the way fuel tanks work in Flyout, you can either make them a cube. In fact, the cube primitive is by default a fuel tank. Yeah, it's by default fuel tanks. Or you can use a drop tank, and the drop tank lets you shape it a bit more. It's, you know, this is a fuselage shaped around a drop tank. The actual drop tank's the same shape. I just used a fuselage so I could attach fins to it and get the aerodynamics in play. This is a drop tank. It doesn't drop. It's functionally attached to the aircraft, but it is built using a drop tank component because that's the only way I could really conform it to the space I had without either using like 50 different pieces or having it clip through the aircraft and having to use invisible material, which is what I originally did. It was originally just a cube set to invisible, but I'll probably adjust it a bit to use this space better, or I might pull the nose of it back to put more avionics there. It depends what the needs are as the game progresses and more parts are available. We got some avionics in the tail. These are batteries. They're just there to add weight and simulate avionics boxes. This would be things like the ARU, various flight control systems, data recorder, stuff like that. We got fuel tanks here in the wings. So in the wing roots, we got fuel tanks there. It's a wet wing. The inner portion of the wing is set to about 50% fuel, so it would be like a 21, right? You've got the leading edge behind the spar is basically tankage. And you can set the drain sequence for these as well. So the priority is it drains from the drop tanks first, then it drains from... I want to say it drains from the dorsal tank, maybe? No, I think it drains from drop tanks, wing tanks to get it so you've got less inertia in the wing, so you get a better rate of roll. And also it keeps the center of gravity consistent. Then it drains from this tank, I think, and then it drains dorsal and then reserve. Because if it drained dorsal and reserve first and then this, it'd be too tail heavy and the aircraft would be unstable. But yeah, that's what's inside this little thing. But we'll just go back and load the non-see-through version so I don't accidentally save over it. And give myself a headache trying to fix it. But yeah, that's what I got so far for this thing. So there's our show and tell portion done. What time is it? 8 o'clock. I might call the stream there. We'll make it a reasonably short one because little Missy's getting stroppy. She wants to play. And I need some dinner. And also, if I was going to do anything else on stream, it'll probably be DCS, which takes a bit of setting up. And I can't do multiplayer because internet. So I think we'll call it there. And I will try and get another stream in before I go back to work. So maybe like next weekend or next Monday or something, I'll try. We'll see how we go. I'm going to be up at my parents' farm for the next few days. So I will have internet, but I won't be able to stream. I won't have my PC. I'll just be on my laptop. And I'll probably be more playing with Daphne and maybe getting some shooting in and catching up on, slow horses and half a dozen other things. So... maybe in about a week we'll have a stream. We'll see how we go. After that, I'll be back to work. I will try and get streams in like at least once a month or every 2 months, so like we were doing before. Hello. Hello, Missy. Have you taken up residence on my desk? She's so spoiled. Just before I go though, for those who missed it, I've got myself a new stream start card, which I thought was appropriate. I thought it fit. Considering she's now sitting on top of my desk. In my way, little creature. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. It's been good to see you all again. Hopefully not so long before the next time. Hopefully just a couple days before the next time. And I'm hoping I can get this internet shit sorted sooner rather than later so we can go back to actually playing DCS multiplayer. Hopefully the Reforger issue gets sorted out so I can start playing that on stream as well. Because that is good fun when it isn't running at 3 frames a second. But yeah, until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I will actually set up a raid since my browser's already open. If you'll give me just a moment, we'll see who's on. We will send you off somewhere else so you can be somebody else's problem. No, you guys are good. You guys aren't problems. Who have we got on? We have a Robbo who is playing Grey Zone. Let's see who's streaming DCS. Is anyone doing anything much in DCS? A Hornet and a Tomcat? I feel like if I was going to send you guys to a DCS stream, it'd need to be something a bit, you know, a bit more blue cockpit than that. Is anyone else streaming Flyout? No, just me. Is anyone streaming JHPC? Don't look like it. I think I'll just send you guys to Robbo. Bear with me. I haven't set up a raid in a while. I need to remember how this works. We'll get there eventually, chat. Kang, you got here just in time for the stream to finish, unfortunately. But yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it? How the fuck? What am I doing? Where's my control panel? I forget how this Twitch thing works. I haven't done it for so long. They've totally changed how the dashboard looks too. Jesus. My brain can't keep up with all these changes. What are they doing? Raid channel. There we go. Okay, I'm sending you guys off to Robbo. Have a good one, guys. Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye-bye.